Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
I want to talk about Project Marvel as well. So Project Marvel is what is being dubbed, it has been dubbed Project Marvel, which is what the downtown entertainment district is being called for San Antonio, and bringing a new Spurs stadium along with everything else that goes down in the hemisphere. So we're finally breaking the silence on that this week. Thursday, City Council is going to get a briefing when it comes to a feasibility study, when it comes to potential funding sources, a kind of a conceptual plan for what this may look like. My question is, it's a $3 to $4 billion enterprise. How much of it is going to be from the Spurs? How much of it is going to be from the city? And how much is the taxpayer going to have to fund? And do you guys think that they will want to fund that? Chuck?
That's a good question. I don't know, to answer your question, if people want to fund it or not. I know when we were going through the Frostbank Center, when they were building that, that was a huge component, right? If you don't get the taxpayer dollar entity on the ballot for people to vote yay or nay for, then the Spurs were going to move. And so I think that was pretty abundant that was going to happen at the time. It passed overwhelmingly. Of course, it helps when you go win a championship, leading up to the vote. So, will people want to vote for something like that to have another arena down there? I have no idea. I do know this based on how Bexar County has voted the last several cycles. Anything that includes more taxes or more governmental control passes with flying colors. So I would imagine that if this gets on a ballot based on people's ability to vote en masse in Bexar County, that this would probably pass as well.
Yes, I agree 100%. I also think there is a possibility that you can use taxpayer money without putting it to a vote of the masses. And that is what they did with the Mission's new stadium, with the TERS tax. And we're finding this out. This is really complicated. I've been in the weeds with Ron Nierenberg over the last year and a half with this many times. And he was trying to explain to me that the model that was used for 99 Spurs new arena and was used with so many communities where taxpayers foot the bill and a vote and all that is not necessarily the model anymore. Hence the Spurs recruiting Michael Dell, Joe Gebbia, Kristen Lewis, and the guy from Atlanta, Paul, whatever his last name is, I forget, that have the capital to put the money up front, okay, to build most of it and get their return with the development that comes along with it. We're seeing this with the Western Urban and the Mission Stadium. The Mission Stadium is going to be funded by the tax revenues of the retail, the apartments, the restaurants, all that, which will go back to Western Urban, which will pay them off for their initial investment. And then for 20, 30, 40 years, it's just money rolling in. And so there will probably be a element of a tax. We'll find out more on Thursday.
We'll find out more on Thursday for sure.
But the bottom line is the train always goes forward. There's always the naysayers. And whenever this comes up, there's always the letters to the editor of the newspaper. I don't want to pay no taxes for these $1 million owners and all that. But for a city to move forward, like Austin's been kicking our you-know-what for the last 15 years, for a city to move forward, you have to have progress. You have to have new development. You have to have infrastructure and new arenas and things like this. There's not going to be the leverage anymore of moving because Seattle's going to get a team and Vegas is going to get a team from expansion. And so this is something San Antonians, I would think, would want to do. And by the way, it's been moved up 5 years because they got Wemby. The Spurs weren't planning on this before last year's lottery.
That was going to be another question: is what is the Wemby effect when it comes to something like this? Because you guys mentioned it was the championship in '99 helped spur, pun intended, the new arena that they have right now, the AT&T Center, formerly AT&T Center, Frostbank Center, helped get that development off the ground. And now you have a young, probably going to be the best player in the NBA at a certain time in his career, hopefully, in San Antonio, and you want, one, to keep him here, but two, to use him as the leverage to continue your progression as a franchise.
That's why this is on the agenda for this Thursday instead of a Thursday 5 years from now.
I would also think that as far as the city goes, this is, 6 months until Ron Nirenberg can't be the mayor anymore. I would think that he wants this as part of his legacy as
Big
well.
time.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that they're pushing to try and get this done sooner rather than later. They've
been working on it for a while.
2032 is when the lease is up at the Frostbank Center. So they don't really have. It's not like they have a deadline to get this done Thursday, but because of all of those elements, they've moved all of that up, is what it feels like.
The Missions is a short-term project that's going to be done quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs new arena and tearing down the
Institute of Texas and Cultures.
That's a long-term. But they're getting the ball rolling now.
It's also not just an arena. It's like an entire entertainment district.
Yeah.
Like it's
Like
gonna be
Arlington.
it's gonna be restaurants. It's like Arlington, exactly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like Texas Live or whatever they have out there. It's gonna be something similar to that. Restaurants and bars and retail and all of those things.
There's a big Alamo Dome component to this too, of renovation to the Alamo Dome.
Elaborate on that.
Huge, $200 million worth of, or at least, of renovation to the Alamo Dome, expanding, updating.
That's all stuff they have to get done for the Final Fours and stuff like that, right?
Well, we're not going to get another Final Four after this one, unless they do something like that, which is what they want.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Thursday goes down. We'll talk about it more on Thursday, obviously. But I thought we've been talking so much about the Spurs and how their franchise and the arrow on this franchise is going straight up, especially with Victor and with Stephon and with Devin and with all these players that they're getting. It's time to start investing in that, and now you're seeing that kind of come from the city.
Yeah, I'm all for moving the needle forward, right? For growth, for better ability to get around downtown, to have more things to do down there, to have better places to eat, all of that stuff. And if this is the vehicle that you have to have in order to make that stuff happen, so be it. Because to this point, nothing else has moved the needle. Or I shouldn't say nothing else, but there's been very little in the way of huge leaps of progress to making downtown more vital and viable.
Yeah, and ever since COVID happened, downtown has kind of, I don't want to say died, but it's definitely been less of a place to go. The business down there has been weaning ever since.
The Pearl
COVID
has
happened.
been a godsend.
Yeah, and Southtown, they've done really nice things around there. It's just how do you bring it up another notch?
Right.
For me, we're talking about adding a minor league baseball stadium down there. Wouldn't be, for me, the ideal thing. I would rather go chase a major league team to bring down there. But if this is the vehicle that spawns other things, then
More power
who
to
am
them.
I
By
to
the way,
say
I went by
not do it?
The home of the Durham Bulls when I was there this weekend.
Nice.
They've got a nice little stadium in Durham, North Carolina.
Bob, anything before we get out of here?
Just Herman was agreeing. He said, let me pull that up right here. Not happening. If they try to float taxpayer funding for a smaller stadium with parking downtown, not going to happen.
Yeah, it is. And let me tell you,
His name is Herman Munster.
Man.
it is. It's going to happen. It's always going to happen. And you got to quit thinking about things like parking. Parking is going to be a thing of the past. Do they think about parking in Madison Square Garden in New York City? Do they think about parking in Chicago or Philadelphia?
Yeah, but those have subways and trains around
right,
there,
and
too.
that's where we're going to have to start thinking differently with mass transit. We're going to have to start thinking, isn't Elon digging a tunnel from the airport in San Antonio to downtown?
You're
I
not
keep trying to
catching.
look up if there's been any update on that.
You're not catching me on a Via bus.
Well, we're going to have driverless
Via
cars. Your
Via?
car will just drop you off and then go and park somewhere.
Not trying to say anything bad
Yeah.
about Via.
Some of the
I'm just-
early sketches, seriously, have grass and land and businesses on top of what we know is 281 now, between the Alamo Dome and Institute of Texas and Cultures, with 281 running underneath it, and all of that being open.
Can we just finish the flyovers first? Like, do we really
the
need more?
bullet
of this?
train going from downtown to the north
It
side.
already
of
takes me
town.
I'm okay
25
with the
minutes.
flyovers. It's the stuff next to the flyovers. Why are we messing with that
All right,
too?
we've really devolved
Yes,
into
I
chaos
know.
now. Bob, anything else?
That's it.
All right. That's all we got for today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Watch the Cowboys and
I'm
Texans
taking my
tonight.
hoverboard to the game.
Your hoverboard. Okay.
Yeah.
And chaos.
In the
Chaos.
future.
We'll see you guys on Thursday.